What's up, Ann Arbor? It's me, Pete Cunningham, coming at you after day 9 of the World Cup, on to day 10. I had to cover high school baseball day. Congratulations to Ann Arbor Pioneer on a state championship. And Bob had to go to a wedding. Don't worry, ladies, not his wedding, a friend's wedding. So I'm flying solo tonight, so bear with me. We'll get through the games, and then hopefully you guys can go watch a game with your dad on Father's Day. First game of the day was Netherlands versus Japan, and although the Dutch didn't look as good as maybe we'd like them to, they did get the 1-0 victory over Japan, and they're on to the next round. They have 6 points. Their goal was off of Wesley Sneijder, a real cracker. It was an absolute gem of a goal. I would have liked to have seen Elia early in the game, but that's just selfish on my part. The fact is the Dutch coach thinks he's good off the bench, brought him in the 72nd minute, looked great when he came in, as per usual. Selfishly, I want to see him for 90 minutes because he's that dynamic of a player, but, you know, we can't always get what we want. Alright, next game of the day, Ghana versus Australia. This was a really good game. I was surprised with Australia's quality, considering that they didn't have their captain, Tim Cahill. And they actually got on the board first, scored a goal in the 11th minute, and put it in after the Cameroon keeper Richard Kingston had a real gaffe right to him, pops up a rebound, and Brett Holman scores in the 11th minute. And I'm sick of hearing that this ball is like so crazy that goalies can't handle it. You know, whatever. You guys are world-class goalies. By now, all these gaffes are getting a little old. You should be used to it by now. So Kingston, unacceptable gaffe, and it's been kind of prevalent. There have been a lot of ugly goals like that throughout the tournament. But the story of the game really came later on when there was a handball in the box by Australia, and another red card, so the Socceroos can't catch a break. They played with 10 men for most of this game, and despite this, they had an opportunity late, but couldn't capitalize, and Ghana had countless opportunities. But, I mean, it ended up being a 1-1 tie, so both these teams could still potentially move on to the next round. They've just got to get some really good results in their last game. Okay, so on to the last game, and kind of a sad story for the continent of Africa. First team eliminated from the tournament, Cameroon. They went down 2-1 against Denmark. As predicted, I thought that Denmark did exactly what I said they would. They kind of defended, sat on their heels, got lucky actually. Samuel Eto'o had a goal early, surprisingly didn't have another one late. But they were just too reliant on Eto'o. I think they needed some more contributions from the other people on that Cameroon side. And Denmark eventually got some counterattack goals and defended just enough to get the 2-1 victory. And Cameroon, with 2 losses, out of the tournament. Kind of sad for them. Sad for the African fans who wanted to see all the African teams do well. So, you know, unfortunate, but that's, if you don't play well, then you're gone. Nature of the game.
It's Mike Kaminsky from the Saline soccer team, and it's time for picks.
Rolling on to today's games. First off is going to be a couple of teams that both got ties in their first game out. You've got Paraguay versus Slovakia. Slovakia has dynamic scoring in Marek Hamsik, but Paraguay, I think, looked really good against Italy, and I expect them to keep that sort of form in their next game. So I'm going to take Paraguay. Bob actually sent me his pick. He's going to take Slovakia. Something about the way they played against New Zealand, I guess, caught his eye. Next game, Italy versus New Zealand, and as bad as Italy looked by Italian standards, and as good as New Zealand looked by New Zealand standards in both of their respective ties, Italy is going to smoke the Kiwis. Can't emphasize that enough. I'm taking them. So is Bob, because basically New Zealand's the worst team in this tournament, let's face it, and Italy, even when they're at their worst, they're not going to be down to that level. On to the last game of the day, Brazil versus Ivory Coast in the group of death. The group of death that looked like the group of bored to death in the first round. I don't expect to see that again. Brazil is going to absolutely smoke the Ivory Coast. I expect them to just run all over them unless the Ivory Coast decides to pack every man in the box. Ivory Coast was the most disappointing team in the first round to me. Might be because I built too high of expectations. Didier Drogba being injured hurts them. But I'm taking Brazil and I'm taking them big. Bob thinks that Ivory Coast is going to have a little bit of desperation in their step, so he's actually taking them. I bet he'd actually like to take a tie, but Bob and I don't pick ties. That's not what we're about. Got some mail over the weekend, a lot about the U.S. game, a lot about some other things, about the Italian goalie Buffon not being as well as people say he is, but we'll get to that when Bob gets back because I know he'd like to weigh in on some of these topics as well. Instead, I want to touch on something that's really important to me, and I think it should be important to you guys, and that's Father's Day. And in light of the World Cup, I think all of us owe our fathers a big thank you for introducing us to the game, for driving us to practices, all that sort of thing, especially because I'm sure a lot of your fathers out there hate the sport of soccer. My dad would have preferred anything but his sons to play soccer. All soccer was to him was a sport that the Italian kids down the street would kick a volleyball around the street, and something that maybe the sissies who didn't go out for football would play. And I'm sure a lot of your fathers had experiences like that too. But did that ever keep them from driving us to practice? No. Did it ever keep them from getting oranges for halftime? No. Did it ever? Basically, it's because they're dads. They encourage us to do something that we love, which was play the game, watch the game, even though they hate it because they know it's not about them, and that's what being a dad is all about. So it's Father's Day today. Hopefully you can catch an early game, but my advice to you is turn off the World Cup, turn on the U.S. Open or the Tigers game, or you know what, just go golfing with your dad or something because it's Father's Day and chances are he hates soccer. Or maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't, then turn on the game and watch it with him. But hopefully everybody out there enjoys Father's Day because it really is an important day. So to all you dads out there, thank you from me.